So, I've been playing some Baldur's Gate with my loved one recently. This video is entirely a side effect of that. So, for those of you who have played Baldur's Gate, I have taken so long not touching that game since it came out, and I am deeply ashamed of myself. I should have been playing that game this entire time. Holy crap, it is one of the most amazing experiences I've ever touched in my entire life. It is insane how much work and detail and everything went into that fucking masterpiece. That said, yeah, I chose to romance Shadowheart. So, this video is entirely because I chose her as my partner for the game. So, that said, today we are going to be talking about Shadowheart Dark Justiciar. She has the ability to sacrifice things, and to make those things do more things and faster, we are going to be making sure that she is a dragon deck, giving her the Acolyte of Bahamut side piece. So, let's talk about it. Shadowheart Dark Justiciar is a 4-mana commander that allows us to sacrifice creatures to draw X cards, where X is the creature's power. She also allows us to choose a background, and we are choosing Acolyte of Bahamut, a card that allows all of our dragon spells to cost 2 less, as long as they are the first dragon spell that we cast that turn. As it is a background enchantment, we can just play this whenever we want, but it will only ever be online when our commander is online. So, we are basically playing a dragon tribal deck with a sacrifice sub-theme as a way to dig further into our deck. Shadowheart does not have any specific synergies with our dragons, other than the fact that dragons tend to cost a bit of mana, but have a pretty high attack value. So let's go ahead and talk about the first part of the deck, which is our big dragons. All of the things that our Acolyte of Bahamut ability will allow us to discount. And some of these dragons even have special abilities when they die, like, say, Kura the Boundless Sky. This has flying, death touch, and if it dies, we get to either grab 3 land cards of any variety from our deck and put them into our hand, or make a green spirit token, where X is the number of lands we control. This is a fantastically powerful ability that we can make use of at any point. Then we have the Earthquake Dragon, who's just a 10/10 beefy boy, and if we sacrifice this with Shadowheart, we'll just draw 10 cards, and in the meantime, we can just keep punching people with the Earthquake Dragon. Then we have Junji the Midnight Sky. Junji has the ability to make all opponents discard 2 cards and lose 2 life when we sacrifice it, and also allows us to put any non-dragon creature card from our graveyard to our battlefield if we choose to do that instead. But since our deck has about a half makeup of dragons, sometimes we just won't have a dragon in the graveyard, so just punish your opponents instead. Then we have the Avenging Hunter, which allows us to take the initiative when it enters the battlefield. Yeah, it's a D&D deck. I'm gonna put the dungeon mechanic in there, sorry. Then we have the Changeling Titan, which allows us to champion a creature, which exiles it until the Changeling Titan leaves the battlefield. Otherwise, the Titan automatically dies. Because the Changeling Titan is a changeling, it counts as a dragon, and it has a power of 7, meaning that we could drop this on the battlefield for 3 mana because of our Acolyte of Bahamut, and then we will be able to sacrifice it with Shadowheart to draw 7 cards. Then we have the Clan Wanderer, who's also a changeling, and gains basically all of the keywords of every creature in our graveyard, including flying, death touch, and menace, which it will steal from our various dragons. Jugan the Rising Star says that we can distribute 5 1/1 counters amongst any number of target creatures whenever it dies, so whenever we sacrifice it to our commander. Scourge of Clan Neltoth allows us to recast it from the grave by sacrificing 2 creatures and paying 2 mana. Otherwise, it's just a big 6/6 dragon boy. Wandering Troubadour is a 4/2 dragon that allows us to venture into the dungeon at the end of a turn if we have had a creature or had a land enter the battlefield this turn. Dread Linorm allows us to put 2 1/1 counters on a creature and untap it and give it hexproof until end of turn, which we can use to protect our commander, but also it is a big 7/6 dragon we can play later on in the game to sack to our commander. Then we have the Emerald Dragon, which is a flying trample 4/4 that can also be used to counter important abilities of our opponent's cards. Topaz Dragon, which we can use to give all of our creatures death touch until end of turn, which is otherwise a 4/4 flying dragon we can play on its right side. Then we have a Lurking Green Dragon. It's a 4/4 dragon for 4 that can't attack unless a defending player has a creature with flying. We won't be attacking with this. We'll be playing it for 2 mana, and we'll be punching our opponents in the deep throat. Then we have Skanos Dragonheart, a dragon ranger that says that whenever it attacks, it gets +X until end of turn, where X is the greatest power of other dragons we control, and dragon cards in our graveyard. So here's what's going to happen. This is going to pop onto the board as a 4/4. It's going to punch somebody for 14 because we'll have an Earthquake Dragon in the graveyard. After we've done that, if we decide to, we can sacrifice it to Shadowheart and then draw 14 cards. Yay! Big hands! Then we have the Sylvanas' Invoker. It's a 3/2 dragon that can allow us to untap a land we control and turn it into an 8/8 elemental, which we can just use to either punch people over and over again or sacrifice to Shadowheart. Then we have the Ambitious Dragonborn, which enters the battlefield with X/1/1 counters, where X is the greatest power of creatures we control and creatures in our graveyard. It's basically just another Skanos Dragonheart, but this time it just gets it when it comes onto the battlefield. And because so many of our dragons are going to make their way into the graveyard, we're going to run a pretty beefy reanimation and recursion package, beginning with Bone Dragon. This lets us exile 7 cards from our own graveyard to return this dragon from the graveyard to the battlefield on its own. Archpriest of Shadows, which has backup and death touch and can give its effects to any creature the turn it comes out onto the board, which allows that creature to punch an opponent and then reanimate any creature from our graveyard to the battlefield. Victimize lets us sacrifice a creature to reanimate 2 creatures. Dread Return lets us reanimate a creature or sack 3 creatures to reanimate a creature while it's in the graveyard. Doomed Necromancer can sacrifice itself to reanimate a creature. Moira Urborg Haunt has Menace, and whenever it touches an opponent in the Dingleberries, they have to let us reanimate a creature from the graveyard. Then we have Grave Shifter, who is a changeling, so this is just another dragon, and the Grave Shifter allows us to take any creature from our graveyard and put it into our hand. Zombify lets us reanimate a creature for 4. Bladewing's Thrall lets us reanimate a creature as well, if the creature is named Bladewing's Thrall. Bladewing's Thrall has flying if we have a dragon, and when a dragon comes into play, we return it to the from the graveyard to the battlefield. This is just a easily recurable way of drawing 3 cards every turn with Shadowheart. Then we have Back for More, which reanimates a creature and then makes it fight another creature, and Last Voyage of the Blank. This pops onto the battlefield and gives a creature 2/0 for every name sticker on the aura with 7 or fewer letters, meaning this will always reanimate a creature and give it at least +2/0. Yes, this means you'll have to have a sticker deck. Yes, that's gonna suck. Yes, sticker mechanic is horrible, but you can shorthand it as much as you want, and the Last Voyage will be able to come onto the battlefield and just give a creature +2/+0, meaning that creature will count for 2 more draws for Shadowheart. And that does it for the core strategy of the deck. I mean, it's really simple. Put dragon out, punch in throat with dragon. Now let's go ahead and talk about drawing cards, which Shadowheart's already doing, but you can't always rely on the commander to do all your drawing for you. So let's talk about our draw engine. We got a small 8-card draw engine because our commander is already doing so much of this work and heavy lifting for us. So let's start with the Heirloom Blade. This gives a creature 3/1, which means it will count for 3 more draws with our own commander. And if that creature dies, we reveal the top card of our library until we reveal a creature that shares a type with it and put that card into our hand. So we sack a dragon, draw lots of cards, get another dragon off the top of our deck. Everything is golden and happy. Cedar Wayfinder grabs the land off the top of our deck and throws all the other cards into the graveyard, which we can use to reanimate with all of our big reanimation engine stuff. Grizzly Salvage grabs the top 5 cards of our deck, lets us grab 1 into our hand, throws the other into the graveyard. Draconic Muralist, whenever it dies, we get to search our library for a dragon, put it into our hand. Garruk's Uprising will allow us to draw a card every time one of our big dragons touches the board. It'll also give trample to them all. Harmonize lets us draw 3 cards when we cast it. Morbid Opportunist draws us an extra card whenever a creature dies, as does the Death Reap Ritual, but both only do it once per turn. So it's just adding 1 extra draw to what Shadowheart is already doing. Now, with all the draw out of the way, and done so quickly, might I add, let's go ahead and talk about removing our opponent's shit from the board. I wanted to make sure that most of the removal in here had extra synergies with what the deck was doing, so let's begin with a Noxious Dragon. When it dies, we can destroy any creature with converted mana cost 3 or less. A Black Dragon enters the battlefield, giving a creature -3/-3 until end of turn. Destructor Dragon destroys any non-creature permanent when it touches the board, and Foe Razor Regent is a dragon that can fight another creature when it comes onto the board, letting us blow up another problematic creature. Then we have the Steel Hellkite, which can destroy destroy any number of cards with the same mana cost whenever it swings, as long as we pay that mana into its cost. And that does it for all of the dragons we will be abusing for removal. Let's talk about our other cards. Rise of the Witch King sacrifices any creature on our board to make everybody sacrifice a creature on their board to allow us to reanimate anything from our graveyard. It's honestly a fantastically overpowered card. Then we have Come Back Wrong, which can blow up any creature and then puts that creature on our board. Then we'll sacrifice that creature to Shadowheart. Then we have Frontier Siege, meaning all of our dragons will fight things when they touch the board. Death Sprout blows up a creature and then gives us a land. Binding of the Old Gods blows up a non-land permanent, then gives us a land. And that really does it for all of our removal that is single target. We still have 2 more cards to go over, and those are our board wipes of Necromantic Selection to blow up all the creatures on the board and allow us to reanimate a creature when we do so. This also can be used to steal commanders from your opponent due to a fun timing restriction. Then we have a Deathbringer Regent in here. It's a big dragon that blows up all the creatures on the board if you cast it from your hand, and there are 5 or more other creatures on the battlefield. And that does it for all of our removal. Our plan is to make sure that we draw lots of this early and then blow up as many problematic cards as possible so that our dragons can turn sideways at people and make their skulls look a little bit like not skulls. But we still need lots of ramp and mana because dragon decks are hungry. Let's talk about that. We got a 14-card ramp package to supplement the ramp we've already shown off in the removal package, so let's go ahead and get through all these. A Jade Orb of Dragonkind gives us 1 green mana and gives us a 1/1 counter onto a creature if it is a dragon when we cast it with the Jade Orb. This will also allow us to draw more cards when we sacrifice that card to Shadowheart. Dawn-Treader Elk and Font of Fertility and Wayfarer's Bauble are all effectively the same card. They come onto the battlefield and we sack it to draw a card. Or not draw a card, get a land from the deck onto the battlefield. That one. Scaled Nurturer is a dragon mana dork that also can give us life gain. Heaped Harvest is a food that gives us a land when it comes onto the battlefield and also another land whenever we sacrifice it. Springbloom Druid lets us sacrifice a land to get 2 lands out of the deck. Solemn Simulacrum is a land ramp and a draw all tied together. Just sack it to Shadowheart and you'll get the draw. Harrow sacks a land to get 2 lands out of the deck. Wood Elves grabs a forest out of the deck untapped. Search for Tomorrow grabs any basic land from the deck untapped, and also we can play it on turn 1 thanks to its suspendability. Rampant Growth searches our library for a basic land, drops it onto the battlefield. Honest Rutstein allows us to get a card out of our graveyard when we play it, and also discounts all of our creatures down by 1. And then we have Smeagol, which says at the beginning of our end step, if a creature died under our control this turn, the ring tempts us. And if the ring tempts us, target opponent reveals from the top of their library until they hit a land card, and then we put that land card on our battlefield. We will be losing lots of creatures to our own shenanigans, so Smeagol is going to give us lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of ramp. After that, we have 21 basic lands, we have 10 swamps, and 11 forests. We have 6 dual lands with Exotic Orchard, Command Tower, Viridescent Bog, Tainted Wood, Haunted Mire, and Golgari Rot Farm. The Rot Farm is here to reuse utility lands, and the Haunted Mire is here because it can come into play thanks to the Wood Elves. Then we have the fetching lands of Terramorphic Expanse and Evolving Wilds, which sacrifice themselves to get a basic land from the deck onto the battlefield. Shire Terrace and Promising Vein, which sacrifice themselves to do the same thing if we pay a mana, but also can just be generically good colorless lands until that point. Blighted Woodlands and Myriad Landscape, which can sacrifice themselves to ramp us. And then finally we have our utility lands of Mosswort Bridge to cast things for free, Volatile Fault to get rid of problematic lands, and Pit of Offerings to get rid of problematic cards from players' graveyards. That is it for everything in the deck. Let's go ahead and do a quick run through of a game so that we can see how this deck functions. And let's begin. I'm going to be honest, the most important thing we can possibly have in an opening hand is lots and lots of ramp, because dragons am costly. Looking at our opening hand, we have a Golgari Rot Farm, a Myriad Landscape, a Swamp, so there's 1 ramp there. We have a Wood Elves and a Binding of the Old Gods, so we have even more ramp tied to a creature and a removal spell as well. And then we have the Heirloom Blade, so that when we start getting dragons down, they get bigger and will let us draw into a perfect sequence of dragons. I'm okay starting with this hand, so let's open up with the Wayfarer's Bauble. Let's go ahead and play that Swamp, tap it, and get that Wayfarer's Bauble out early. We move into the next turn, and we didn't get a creature, or we didn't get what we wanted here. We got a Avenging Hunter. So we're going to have to go ahead and play this Golgari Rot Farm down, bouncing that Swamp to our hand, and we're going to have to we don't have to discard down. We play the Wayfarer's Bauble. Right, we're actually golden. We move into turn 3, and we can play a Swamp, and looking at where things are at right now, we can crack the Wayfarer's Bauble, or we can play the Dawnshredder Elk. I think actually instead of the Swamp, we play the Myriad Landscape, crack the Golgari Farm, and let's go ahead and go into our library, and let's grab ourselves a Forest. We move into turn 4, and let's play a Swamp, and now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lands available. Let's go ahead and use 3 of those to get Wood Elves on the board, and 2 of them to go ahead and get Acolyte of Bahamut on the board. Now, Wood Elves is going to go into our library and grab ourselves a Haunted Mire, drop it on the battlefield tapped, and we move into turn 5. We have Junji in our hand and Shadowheart ready to cast, so we are missing a land drop, so we're going to go ahead and pay 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's get Shadowheart on... do we get Shadowheart on the board? We don't have a creature in our grave. I don't think we actually play Shadowheart right now. I think that's the wrong move. I think the correct move is ramping a little bit more. Let's go ahead and crack our Myriad Landscape, and we'll use the Dawnshredder Elk as well. So Dawnshredder Elk's going to get cracked. Myriad Landscape's going to get cracked. That's going to allow us to go into our library and get a Forest and 2 Swamps out immediately. They're all going to come into play tapped, but it does mean we are well set up for the following turns. So we go into our next turn, we play a Forest. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 lands and 9 mana total. We're going to pay 1, 2, 3, 4. Shadowheart is going to touch the board, and then we're going to pay 1, 2, 3. And we're going to go ahead and play Junji out with that. We have 2 mana open. We have nothing to do with it, so we're just going to sit on this particular board state. We move into turn 7. We have a Changeling Titan available. Here's where we start what the deck is trying to do. We're going to pay 3 and put the Heirloom Blade out, and we're going to pay 1 to attach that Heirloom Blade to Junji. Now we're going to go ahead and swing Junji at a player for 8 damage. They take 8 damage here, and then we will use Shadowheart to sacrifice Junji away, causing all players to discard 2 cards and lose 2 life. And because Junji went away, Heirloom Blade has the ability to trigger. We're going to stack it so that Shadowheart gives us our draw of 8 first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then Junji is going to go until we hit a dragon and put that dragon into our hand. We got a Bone Dragon off of that, which is perfect. And now we have 4 mana, and we can play anything we want. So I think what we're going to do is we are going to pay... let's see here. Looking at what we have, Changeling Titan would come down for 3 mana. 1, 2, 3. Let's play the Changeling Titan, and it will exile this Wood Elves when it comes onto the battlefield. This means that the Wood Elves will be able to come back if it dies, and we'll be able to get another land using the Changeling Titan. Now we have 1 mana available. We have 7 power on the board, and we have an Earthquake Dragon, but he's not discounted enough. So we're going to pay 1, put that Heirloom Blade on the Changeling Titan. Now it is a 10 power Changeling Titan, and we need to figure out what we're going to discard down for this turn. Let's discard the Bone Dragon and the Bladewing Thrall, because those come out automatically whenever we want them to. After that, I think the Avenging Hunter is probably good to go. We don't need that one right now. And Morbid Opportunist, we've drawn plenty of cards. We don't need that. And we're ramped up plenty, so we can get rid of those lands and ramp pieces. We're in a really good spot now. Now we move into the next turn, and our opponents are likely going to chump block Changeling Titan, but we still want to go ahead and aim this at somebody's face. So let's go ahead and swing a 10 power creature at an opponent, making them take however much damage or lose a creature. Then we are going to use Shadowheart. We're not going to use Shadowheart yet. I'm dumb. We pay 1, 2, and we play Earthquake Dragon. Now we have a 10/10 Earthquake Dragon, and because we played that, our Bladewing's Thrall automatically comes into play. we don't need a lot of cards in our hand. We actually can keep the Changeling Titan out for a little while if we want. We're in a very good spot. So instead of using our Changeling Titan, let's just pay 4 mana and use Binding of the Old Gods to kill one of our opponent's cards. That'll blow up one of their non-land permanents, and it'll give us a ramp in the next turn. We're in a very good spot. We have a 10-power Changeling Titan, a 10-power Earthquake Dragon, and a Bladewing Thrall we can sack for easy draw when the next turn comes up. In fact, actually, when our opponents end their turn, we're just going to pay 2 mana, sack the Bladewing Thrall to draw 1, 2, 3 cards. And yeah, I mean, hell, we could have even moved the Heirloom Blade over if we chose. But now when we move into our turn, we're going to go ahead and get our draw for our turn. We get to go into our library and get a forest to the battlefield. So that's going to come out here. And let's see here. Does it go into the battlefield tapped? It does go into the battlefield tapped. We get to shuffle our library. We get to play our command tower, so we have that available. And if we play a dragon, we're going to automatically get another Bladewing Thrall onto the battlefield. I'm going to be honest, at this stage of the game, I think I would do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go ahead and play the Cairn Wanderer, because it is a dragon, which will pull the Bladewing Thrall back out. And this will gain all of the things that are in our graveyard. So it's going and grabbing Trample, it's grabbing Flying, it's grabbing Menace. It's in a very good spot, and I want that Junji back, honestly. So we are going to pay 1, 2, 3, 4, and we are going to use Rise of the Witch King to make everybody sacrifice a creature. We are sacrificing our Bladewing Thrall, and we are going into our graveyard, and we are getting Junji back onto the battlefield. Now that Junji is back on the battlefield, we are going to use Shadowheart to sack Junji and make them discard all the cards in their hands and lose 2 more life. And because we sacrificed Junji, we will draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've already played a land for turn. We have 12 cards in our hand. We're going to have to discard down at the end of the turn. But we are punching somebody for 20 damage right now with the Earthquake Dragon and the Changeling Titan. This means when we go into the final turn of the game, which we'll assume that we got rid of all of these extra cards. We didn't need them for this particular run. We go into the final turn of the game, we play a land for the turn, and seeing where we're at right now, if nobody removed our board from the battlefield, we just kind of win here. We use Back for More to blow up a creature and reanimate Junji again, and then make our opponents discard their hands away. So let's do that. We pay 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Back for More. We go into our graveyard, and we get Junji out. Where are you? Where are you? Junji. View all. Junji the Midnight Sky comes back out, and it fights a creature that would be blocking the Changeling Titan. Then we're going to pay 1, 2, sacrifice the Junji once more. That's going to go to the grave, and it's going to draw us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now that Junji's gone to the grave, we've made everybody discard 2 cards and lose 2 life again. And we're going to keep doing that whenever we want, all things considered. Now let's get another giant dragon out here. Let's pay 1, 2, 3, and we're going to put Skanos Dragonheart on the board, and because we put Skanos Dragonheart on the board, we of course get a free reanimate of Bladewing's Thrall. We get that every single time that happens. When a dragon comes into play, return Bladewing's Thrall from our graveyard to play. Honestly, it's just free draw. It just prints out free cards in our hand, and we just keep on hitting with big dragons. And Shadow, let's see here. Skanos is currently sitting. What is he sitting at? +6/+6. He's got the greatest power of a dragon in the grave, and that looks like 5/4. So yeah, he's +6/+6. And Bone Dragon is a return, so we don't get a discount on Bone Dragon's ability. But honestly, just pay 1, Font of Fertility comes down, and we're just in a golden spot. We sacrifice 2 lands out of our hand. I guess the Heaped Harvest would go out of our land when the turn ends. But, like, what do you do when somebody's just aiming 20 damage of Dragon Dick at you every single turn? And if you tried to get rid of any of their cards, they just tap Shadowheart and go, okay, fine. Blow up the Changeling Titan, draw 10 cards, and get a free dragon out. What do you do? But let's talk about what would happen if you had a little more money to sink into the deck, because this one's for me. This section's for me. I'm building this in like a day or 2. Honestly, upgrading this deck should be easy peasy because there are a lot of budget constraints that we had to pick to get the deck to where it was. Now, granted, I didn't make it to $15 when I built this deck. I was greedy and I played the deck as an $18 deck, which is more money than I usually do for these things. $3 whole more, and I'm very sorry that I spent $3 extra on here, but let me make it up to you by suggesting that you play this $20 card called Kokosho the Evening Star. When it dies, every opponent loses 5 life and you gain that much life. That's an insane effect for a deck like this. Reanimate will let you reanimate things from the grave easier. Journey to Eternity and Malakir Rebirth allows you to get things back from the grave at the instant they die. Balagad Recovery is another fun way to get things out of the grave, and of course it is an MDFC. Animate Dead's another good reanimate spell we have access to. Up the Beanstalk's a very powerful draw spell in a deck like this. Beast Within can be used to get rid of problematic cards way easier than other things we've suggested. A Revitalizing Repass can be used to protect Shadowheart. Unnatural Growth can make all the dragons obscenely large. Brain Stealer Dragon can be used to burn your opponents out. And of course, these 2 cards are fantastic as well. Boneyard Scourge lets you pay 2 mana whenever a dragon dies and drop this dragon right onto the battlefield. And Ebon Death can be casted from the graveyard if any of your creatures died during that turn. And because of the Acolyte of Bahamut ability, Ebon Death will come out instantaneously for just 2 mana. I love this card, and I'm so happy to finally have a deck that I can throw it in. That said, let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. I really need to play this deck, and not just because I want to bone Shadowheart, but mostly because I like dragon decks, and this is a different take on a dragon deck besides, oh, Herdur Big Stompy. It's, oh, Herdur Big Stompy, and also I draw bigly. So, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'm going to go ahead and start working on this in paper. Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching, and as always, everybody, insert end of video tagline here. Hey, just wanted to give a quick thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who help keep me afloat and help keep this channel going. YouTube and Twitch are wonderful platforms, but at the end of the day, stability is not one of their strong suits. If you want to support my channel, then obviously Patreon is one of the best ways of doing that. Link is in the description. But I do want to personally thank everybody who has contributed to the channel. Those people would be Red Joker, Purple Poundini, Jemshin, Britzkrieg, Jupe the Malignant, Michael, Ravalern, Mabbity Babbity, Astral Frontier, Autumn and Angel, Nixie Chan, Agamotto, Victorian Alchemist, I'm not saying the last part of that, and you know that, Arcton Arclacier, Kiratorian, Dren Hadamata, Jordan M, John L, Lord Bleck, Smiling Game Master, and Fire Shard. And everyone else who supports my channel and lets me do what I do full-time. This is a dream job of mine that I never believed that I would be able to take full-time, and with your help, I've been able to do it. So thank you so very much for that. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you all enjoy, and I hope you all are having a wonderful time. I will see you all in the next one, hopefully.